No. John Rahm stinks. I don't know if you saw what just happened, but he made not five, not like LeBron, not four, not five, not six, but the old seven spot to close out that round.
Nice. I can live with that. Sorry for you.
Oh, really?
Justin Thomas, though, more like Justin Dumbass.
You tell him.
Thursday tilt or Friday tilting at especially this is a no cut event, so I'm barely paying attention. I don't know if you. I saw that Chris Kirk and Keegan Bradley are tied for first. I
Yeah.
decided to do other things. How's it going, man?
Good.
Excellent. I'm Andrew. This is Ben. This is From A to B, presented by awesomemode.com. This is our Friday show. We are in the last little period where sports are not like super busy right now. We have some minor things to talk about. I mean, there's some college football that you're going to have to talk about because I still don't really understand it, but I'm going to learn with you as we progress through the season. There was a slate last night. Tulane, they covered, right?
Depends where you got him. It was very close. I think they opened around 7. I saw 5.5s out there. I got it at 6. Not useful. Should have won the game. And then on the DFS side, like, you're going to get some unlucky things. You're going to get some lucky things. When you have a shorter slate like that and there's an overtime game in college, it's a gold mine because in college overtime, you start right basically at the goal line and it's match. So you can get to 6 overtimes, which is many additional touchdowns. Tulane managed to get the anti-points in overtime. They did not even get a field goal. Wake scored immediately, ended it. So that was unfortunate. I really could have used a couple of fluke touchdowns there. Would have got me over in most tournaments. Still fun though. Good start. Not in monetarily, obviously, but still nice to see college football back.
It's funny you bring that up. I totally forgot about the college overtime
It's
rule. So
nuts.
I years ago applied to a job at ESPN, and it was like I know sports quite well. It's like a major passion of mine, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna. They have like a little quiz that you take when you submit your application. And I didn't even really bother studying for it because you're allowed to like Google stuff. It's like I'm gonna know most of this. It'll be fine. Like maybe there will be a hockey question that trips me up or whatever. Lo and behold, it's like 60 questions and half of it is about college. I totally forgot like how big of a deal college sports are to them. And I think I remember there being a question about how the overtime works in college football, and I had no clue. Or I think that's not true. I think I confidently clicked on the wrong one and then figured out what it was later. But what are you
Yeah,
gonna do?
it can be a game changer though for DFS purposes because it's just massive. It was a weird slate. I mean, we'll obviously we're gonna talk a little about that, a little about the Saturday slate, but it felt good. I mean, the scoring, it's one of those things. Like you look, Mackenzie Milton, yeah, he played great. He had a lot of points, but when you splice it out to what you paid for him, it's not like he really got there per se in tournaments. He didn't kill you by any stretch, and there was plenty of value where you could easily fit him in. And the guy that I used in replace of him was the Tulane quarterback. Didn't get there. But my problem was, I mean, I had one complete bomb, and it was the Wake running back. Don't really understand it. I was actually stunned to see their attack. They were throwing the ball all over the place, not really running it. Didn't
Which
really
one
get
was
that.
that? What was his name again?
Like something like that. Cornel, I believe. And it just one of those is swing and a miss. Nothing really saying. It's hard to recover on a slate like that, where pretty much all the chalk got there. I mean, Trey Nixon was very obvious at 3K. The only thing it felt kind of trappy. I bought into it. He was very popular, and he got like 30 points at 3K. You know,
That the $7,700 wide receiver who was on Wake.
yeah,
Gorsuch.
all the Wake receivers got there because it was just they were throwing the ball all over the place.
Yep.
So it's just one of those. It's just like anything. It's a I don't know about you. This is a good question actually. When you start a sport, do you feel a little rust like on the DFS side?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah. Like I really, it felt rusty. It felt like atypical to be building, obviously, football lineups, especially college. It just takes a little to get in a groove.
Yeah, for sure. Because you get really wrapped up in this. I have an echo going on. That's incredible. But yeah, you get wrapped up in a certain way of doing something, and then when you're trying to do a new one, it certainly takes a little while to get back into the swing of things. That's why I think it's really helpful to start researching early. A lot of the time when I was more of a casual DFS player, I would often get not killed, but like not do as well towards the beginning of a season because I was just kind of diving in. It's like, all right, hey, NBA starts today. Like, let's build some lineups.
Playing catch up. Yeah. No, it's true. Especially, college. I know for me, it wasn't something I was looking at it more in a, on the betting side. You're playing catch up just because they didn't break this news till very late. So kind of a scramble, but I'm excited. We'll talk about Saturday.
I literally just threw 50 lineups in an hour and a half before lock because there was so much overlay in that $10 thing.
Yeah.
It didn't go great, but whatever. There was a lot of overlay. Seemed like a good time to play.
Always. How did you? I know you haven't looked at the golf, but I do have some quick thoughts if you want to talk a little golf.
Yeah, sure. I'm into it. I've looked. I mean, I'm somewhat paying attention.
Yeah,
I have Chappell and Xander first round leader, and I think they're both going to finish one off of it, which is not that fun.
Yikes. The course, I mean, it's very early and it's only the first day, but playing a lot harder than I thought it would. And that's leading to more scrambling. Seems like around the green, these guys are not, you don't see guys just hitting a bunch of greens in regulation at like a ridiculous clip, which I thought there was a chance that's what you were going to say.
Yeah, it has not really been the case so far. It's definitely playing a little bit harder. I mean, I was kind of on record that I don't think this course is necessarily that easy. It's more that the players are really good. But yeah, Jason Day, sub 40% GIR. That's not going to get it done.
Yeah, he's, but again, we've
shot 217 yards to landscaping. That's rarely a good sign.
Yeah, that's when you can get the landscaping and wall are the two real weird ones. If you can get those, native areas amateur hour, that's a dime a dozen.
Whatever. Yeah. But I've had more time in the native area than you've had hot meals, kid.
Yeah, come on now. It's still though, even like Day, we were just talking about this before the show. I know everyone, it's over. It's probably like a little less than a coin flip to make the cut. If he plays bad tomorrow, he's 0% chance, but he's certainly capable of going out and shooting around in the 60s and he'll be fine. DJ looked good. Still makes a lot of bogeys, but just scoring as he always does. So we'll see. It's hard to really draw. I mean, right now, most guys up there are cheapies. It's hard to have a real good thing going, but not.
Well, he had like the DJ Spieth with a bunch of
of course. There's a lot of guys who just started. Like Rose and them just got out there. I'm not overly concerned. The ownership was somewhat interesting. Rahm was way higher than I thought he was going to be. Usti was too. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, he did get his way. I mean, I sort of saw that happening. Just how much we were, the amount of love that we had for him. I'm not saying that we're influencing it. I'm saying like if we loved it that much, then other people probably did too.
Yeah, I just thought Usti's one of those guys that I feel like sometimes we're on like a bubble. Like we love him at times where he truly is 1%.
Oh yeah.
So, and the other thing, Fleetwood was sky high ownership. People, I guess that price tag really did entice everybody.
Yeah, it did. He was, I mean, he's like 35% in the 888. Yeah, Fleetwood's by far the highest owned player. Then Casey, which I'm quite a bit under on him, so I feel all right about that. I was sort of surprised by that. And then Tiger, and then Rahm is fourth. Finau is fifth. That's a little surprising. I would have thought he'd be higher, but it's pretty close on all of them, honestly. They're all like Fleetwood's significantly ahead of everyone else. Casey's in his own tier, but then like Woods, Rahm, and Finau are all right about 22, 23% in most places.
Yeah, it's pretty sizable stakes. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything crazy. There's always a couple of surprises here or there, but you know, it's just we'll have to see how it shakes out. Like I said, hybrid 9 cut. You're going to have a lot of swings within these 4 days. It's hard to really be spending that money on the Friday here.
It is.
Yeah,
It really
don't do that.
Nope. Don't do it.
Screenshot life. Just get those screenshots now, people.
Absolutely. Remember when Gordo was winning the Millie Maker for like a couple hours 2 years ago or something? That was fun.
You gotta get the if you can get the screen grab of viewing first, might as well do it. Doesn't happen too often.
On a Thursday. Good times. Cool. All right. Let's see here. There was a basketball trade. The Rockets and Suns. Ryan Anderson's moved on.
Wow.
Big one. This moved the needle for you, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Warriors, man, what does that do to the Warriors' chances now? That's big news.
I will say, I mean, it's obviously a pretty minor deal. I don't hate it for the Rockets, though. I mean, they needed to get off of the Anderson. I mean, the Anderson and Brandon Knight and Marquise Chris are the ones coming back. Knight has a similar contract to Anderson. It's a little bit cheaper, so it's not like they're getting out of his salary, but I don't know. Rhino is sort of dead anyway. I will say, like, whatever. This is probably worth saying, but like, from a larger like macro perspective, I do think it's been a little weird the last few years that guys like Ryan Anderson, and I'm not talking last year, even the year before, but like 3 years ago when he was an awesome player, quote unquote. It's been kind of a drag that guys like Ryan Anderson are more valuable than a guy like Blake Griffin, who is obviously a much better basketball player, but just sort of the way the NBA has been going. I will say, as more and more teams go to switching everything, the Rhinos of the world are going to be not nearly as useful. He's like Ryan Anderson when he's an unbelievable shooter, and he still had the gravity. People still stuck to him. Like, that's a really sick player to have against a drop the big defense, because the whole idea with that is like, you're running a pick and roll, especially one as nasty as CP3 and Capella or Harden and Capella. And then if you've got a big dropping system, then the whole idea of like when you have a crazy roll man like that, like Capella, he's sucking in defenders and then Rhino's open on the wings, or he's keeping a defender from sucking in. When people are switching everything and it just ends up being like, find the best advantage and go ISO, like Rhino's dead. Like, he's not useful at all in that. So I think some of these like only shooter types will be less valuable as we move more towards the switch everything kind of stuff. So that's nice, I guess.
We can't. The NBA has to be on hold at least till the new year. You
just talked about college football, which is not even a real sport.
At least it's here, though. If there was ever a time for this fake sport to be pertinent, it would be now. I don't know, the NBA. It's so,
something just happened, though.
That's true. It just, the Warriors are too good, obviously. You heard it here first, folks. They're probably going to win again.
Mm-hmm.
What's there to say? I like Marquise Chris still in life. I think he could be pretty good.
He's super athletic. Like, that makes sense that's another guy that makes sense for Houston. Like,
exactly
switching defense. Like, he could, if they can get his head on his shoulders. He's been one of the worst players in basketball the last 2 years, but there's potential.
Yeah, it's starting from the ground up. But all right, bring it back. What do you want to? You want to do NFL? I know you wanted to talk a little.
I was happy talking about basketball for the next hour. So it's up to you, man.
Fast Eddie Fear will be around, and you two can talk all your NBA. I know that is your favorite sport, right?
Oh yeah, not close.
Yeah,
that's the sport I know the best. It's the sport I played the longest. Like, I love basketball. It's not college basketball though. That doesn't count.
That's such a bad take.
College basketball is so ugly to watch, though, man. Those players are not good.
At least they try.
Oh my God. Usually our shows are funnier when I get you a little bit tilted, but you're throwing it back on me now. This is I'm a little angry here.
If we
Can't
ever
believe
make it to the spring, whatever, when this stuff is more pertinent, we'll delve into that on the show.
what college versus the pros basketball.
Yeah.
The conversation's over. We just had it.
Okay. Well, then we don't
NBA
have to delve into
basketball
it.
is
Good. More time for college football. That's perfect. Even
all right.
better.
Fine. What's going on tomorrow for college football?
Oh, you want to go? Okay, we can do that. Well, it's week one.
That's what the people want to hear, I think. So
Yeah, sadly, it's true, and I do love college football. It's a big slate, so I'm not gonna go into all these games. Just on a macro level, and I think this is a common theme, even in other sports. But the best games to watch and the most important games are some of the worst games to target, and that's because the teams have real defenses. It's probably going to be a very, closely contested game. You're not going to have these, you saw UCF and UConn. That's the kind of game you like, where it's just out of control. Teams are scoring at ease, points galore. Michigan, Notre Dame tomorrow is going to be a good one. Auburn, Washington, going to be a good one. But at the same time, not games that I really think are the best for DFS purposes. I'll certainly be watching them, but I'm not sure exactly how much you can get in terms of value from those teams, because again, their defenses are legitimate, especially Michigan's. Very, very good team. So
you should talk about that a little bit in general, because like you would never play anybody in not Auburn, Alabama. Like you would never play anyone on or against them, right? So like it's the SEC generally, or where I happen to know that like you see every like defensive lineman played in the SEC, so that's a real thing, right?
They've got some dudes. I think that's a fair rule. Obviously, there's always exceptions. More so that I think there are some Bama players that here and there in a game can be all right. Playing someone against them seems pretty silly, just because there's, when your team total is like 10, and that's sometimes generous. What are you really looking to do? So yeah, I think it's important to know. I do feel like sometimes, since you're not playing a defense, and it's not like the NFL in that regard, that people kind of discount that to an extent. It's just like you have to think, just because this is a really good offense, who are they playing? If you're playing a juggernaut defense, or it's a slow paced game that's going to resemble kind of an NFL game, there's really no reason to do that on a full slate like this. I believe it's 16 games. So, my plan is going to be, you can probably throw out a couple games that are just going to be like Clemson's playing Furman. Furman is not a D1 school. I don't think we need to worry about that. Clemson starters not going to be. Who, Furman?
You got it?
Yeah, the Paladins. But I don't know what a Paladin is. I think it's like a knight.
Oh, yeah, it's like a fancy knight. You never played RPGs or anything like that?
No, I don't. A rocket-propelled grenade, that's what I take from that.
Okay.
I missed out on the RPG video games, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Not assuming. I know that term, I just don't. Never played.
Doing with pen and pencil. That was a little before my time too, but there were still kids playing Dungeons and Dragons, like actual Dungeons and Dragons, when I was in
with real dragons. Yeah. So I think you throw out the handful of games where the spread's out of control. Throw out a handful of games that are, over unders like 45. Tough to really get a ton of value unless you see one guy who's vastly underpriced. I haven't dug in that deep. And I think you're going to be left with a handful of games that, you're going to look to target. Similar to yesterday, check the depth charts, try to find your roles. It's tricky. This early in the year, it's preseason football-esque. Stuff happens, a fumble here early. It's crazy stuff. Coaches are feeling out their team. There's not as many defined roles. And more, I'm interested to see where this goes long term, but more and more teams are using quarterbacks not as a position of one guy. Like there's a lot of teams this year, I think you're going to see not just Wildcat, but a couple people have series within there. So we saw that last night. That was the most tilting of the night. Rodney Smith on Minnesota, who I thought was one of the safest plays on the board. And he was very good. He got double vultured by the Wildcat quarterback. He had a boatload of yards rushing. He just couldn't find the end zone, and that's something to take note of. If Minnesota long term is going to be bringing in, like a Tebow kind of guy to run in the goal line, that's going to hurt the upside for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk process here, because okay. I am trying to learn how to do this. You spend a lot of time doing this. Is there much more? Because if I'm someone who has never spent any time playing, I played 4 weeks 3 years ago or whatever. Right. But I'm going through and it's just okay, SMU and North Texas is a 71 over under with a pretty tight spread. Is there much more to it than find that and then find out who the players are that are going to get the ball the most? Find out if it's a running quarterback or a throwing quarterback. If it's not, is that how you identify a game and then you dig into the game itself and see what's going to go with those guys?
Yeah, I think in a simplistic form. I'm a little more familiar with these teams in general. So I remember a lot of the guys from last year. I know the scheme if it's the same coach, but yeah, absolutely. I think there's 2 steps: get the games first and then look at the teams second. So that's a game you've identified. I couldn't tell you the first thing about North Texas, honestly, or SMU at this point. I'll know later today. You want to look, how are they attacking? There's a lot of teams that rack up points and you think, oh, they're run and gun. No, they just rush for 400 yards a game. Yep. And they have no defense, and it just gets wild like that. So
is there an easy way to find that out before, this is these teams' first game? Is there an easy way to find out how they plan on doing that this year?
I would the first thing I would look at, is it the same coach? Because these guys have their own schemes. If it is, and most teams, of course, it's going to be, just look over last year. You can get team stats, see who's been doing it, just kind of see what the predominant things. I'll use extreme examples like Georgia Tech. They run the triple option. They don't throw the ball, basically. You're going to see their quarterback has, say 100 attempts on the year. It's okay, well, those receivers are not the best guys to target. And then you're going to have teams where the guy's throwing it 70 times a game. It's pretty easy to identify the scheme. And then you kind of want to dig in. I think the third step in that process is, all right, I've identified this team. They're run and gun. Is this defense that they have, is their secondary a weak link? Is it a strong link? Is it indifferent? Can they exploit that? And then from there, you try to break down the plays, and it is week 1, so it is tricky, but I definitely think that's kind of the process.
But coaches generally stick to a scheme in college?
Yeah, most guys, it's not that everyone has a super polarizing scheme, but in general, there are a lot of times in college, what happens is a coach leaves and a new guy comes in, and he naturally wants his own scheme installed, but the players don't fit the scheme. Right. So I can't tell you the number of times you have a quarterback who can't move in an offense that's now designed for a mobile quarterback, and it ends horribly bad.
Yeah, because the best NFL coaches will, and NBA coaches too. It's they don't. It's not like you have a scheme. You adjust your scheme for the personnel you have, but that is not as prevalent in college.
In my opinion, it's not, and I think that's mostly because you don't have cornerstones of your franchise. These guys leave. So it's right. If you're going to be there long term, you want your own scheme so you can recruit your own guys. If you start deviate, but the good coaches like Saban, obviously he adjusts, and he's put in some more up-tempo stuff here and there, and there are other guys who really do have kind of gimmicky, like at Texas Tech as an example. They're pretty ridiculous on offense, the way they go about it. Very high tempo. But early in the season, I think that's your best bet, because we truly don't know, player-wise, what a lot of these coaches want to do.
Yeah, it is. There's the military school that only runs.
Aren't all the military schools. Army, Navy. Air Force. So when Army and Navy play, it's hilarious because they just like, when there's a throw, it's like, oh my God, this is insane.
I mean, I get that like the academic qualifications being a little more stringent makes it hard to get like top tier athletes, but is there a reason they can't get anyone that can throw it all?
No, I mean, I honestly don't know. I think it's just for their lines, it's easier to have mobile guys who can kind of make those blocks than pass protect.
That's it. That's a great point. There are weight. I mean, you can't have
Yeah, you can't have like
300-pound guys in the military.
That's yeah. So they keep it pretty mobile, pretty agile, and that fits kind of what you want to do with that scheme.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah.
No, that makes sense. I totally forgot. I knew there was a reason for it, but we had this discussion a couple weeks ago, and it's like, oh yeah, right, because you can't have real offensive linemen.
And that's tough for them, like but they go with and they're very effective, especially Navy. They're very legitimate. They've had some fringe top 25 teams in the last couple of years. They can play it. So
yeah, because I mean, a lot of the time in the sort of modern NFL, you see like the athleticism in your offensive line is more and more important. Like that kid from the center from the Vikings, Elfline, I think he ran like a 4.6 or something like that, which is literally faster than like Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess, like these trash wide receivers. And like he would get down, you see these guys sometimes just getting downfield and making these crazy blocks. I would imagine something like the military schools where you have 5 like, 230-pound like fast guys as your offensive line. Like that's probably pretty nice when you are getting downfield and you're in space. It's tough to create a pocket in that situation, obviously, but that's not what they're going.
Yeah, so I mean, and I think this is relative to any DFS slate, obviously tomorrow too. You have to think about the game script, and it applies to them easily. They're fine. The problem is what do they do if they're down 24-3? Like right. It gets bad fast because they just don't have the personnel. And you have to realize, tomorrow there are going to be teams. It's like, all right, I try to envision these games. If this game goes this way, if they're down big, will that help my guys? Is that something it's going to abandon the plan? Running back in particular, there's a lot of times in college, it gets out of hand and they're just playing wild catch-up mode. And you do want to see, can your back catch? It's not like the NFL. Even in the NFL, though, I think that still kind of applies. You want some of those reception upside with your backs.
Oh, you need it now. That was a big thing last year. That was a big sea change in the NFL because 2 years ago and 3 years ago, the team jam them in really worked. And there were just so many receptions to go around with running backs last year that you could get the sort of $4,500 guys that were going to catch 4 balls. And like that ended up being more valuable than 10K Lev Bell's 24 points a lot of the time.
It adds up so fast. I mean, even yesterday, there was a couple guys on the slate. It felt like they weren't doing anything. And they had, 6 for 40. That's just 10 points. That's almost 2 extra touchdowns. And, there are guys and you can identify, obviously, again, another macro point, but there are quarterbacks that are relatively young. It's a lot of checkdowns, a lot of easy throws. They're not slinging it to these guys who are split out really wide. And that could be a big bonus for your back.
Okay. All right. And this is a tease. This is good. But do you have sites that you really like to use that you do your research on? Don't say them now. I'm going to get to that, but you have some places you like to go, right?
For sure.
Excellent. And you will share that potentially in our Slack at awesemo.com. A reason to sign up for us. So we have a college football channel. People are going on and talking about stuff in there. Ben really earned his first paycheck yesterday, I think.
It's good because I need to buy, wrist things. I think I have carpal tunnel at this point. I answered a lot of questions, and just we've talked about this, at FanVice a bunch. I think it's worth saying for some new viewers. Our Slack chat, I think it's great because, you get to talk to us. You can bounce plays off us. But we have some of the Awesemo people, the sharpest members. And it's not just us. I mean, last night, they were helping me just as much as I was hopefully helping them. And I think that's one of the best aspects that we have at Awesemo here. It's so many people, not just the content providers, but the subs themselves who have awesome information. It can really be beneficial.
Yeah, it's great information sharing, and it's great to it's fun to have a community to talk with and
it's a lot of fun.
Tilt with. Yeah, exactly. It's great. We had a question from the chat about I'm on Awesemo. How do I access the Slack? That's a great question. I would email support@awesemo.com. And we don't have that answer off the top of our heads, but we can get that for you to know in the future from now. Yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy. You know what I mean?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Josh, can the people hear you?
Figured it'd be easier to just pop in and give this answer instead of typing it into the chat.
All right.
We are working on the logistics of getting that link sent out to all the previous Awesemo.com members that weren't involved with FanVice. We just needed to make sure that we could set that up easily so that we can get everybody in just from a membership standpoint and make sure that we're not putting in anybody that shouldn't be there. I saw a draft email about that getting ready to be prepped for Awesemo.com members. So I think that it is imminent, but it might be a couple days.
Look at that. That's the guy we know, by the way.
All right, back behind the wall now. Bye, guys.
All right.
Yeah, that's Josh who is still producing for us because we can't. We don't know how to do it yet.
It's not a good.
But yes, thank you, Josh, for producing. Thank you for that informative answer. So, yes, Slack was the FanVice Slack. Awesemo did not previously have one. This is migrated over from FanVice, so we will get you guys that were previous Awesemo subscribers on there as soon as possible.
And it's great, yeah. So I think obviously next couple of days I'm going to be breaking down the slate in there, but I know that what we're planning on doing, I think me and Andrew were talking. We're going to take a NFL division. We have basically a week or so for NFL. We're going to kind of break down each division for each show, and sadly, we were thinking of starting with the AFC East.
Well, it's because that's where our teams are, You can't be a football fan for real anymore with how bad it's been as a Jets fan, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone lives and dies with them. I certainly don't. I would like to see them do well. I'd like to see Darnold be good. I think they could be all right, honestly. I'm not predicting anything great, but I don't see a disaster year. I'm hoping that they don't mess up. It's one of those situations for a lot of teams. I'm more concerned that they don't mismanage him than them actually winning games this year. They could be somewhat effective, but just don't mess him up. I thought he was probably the safest guy out of all the QBs last year. I was pretty surprised that they got him. We could thank the Browns for that because they're the Browns. But yeah, I mean, I think you'll like him. Do you know much about him? I know, again, you're not the biggest college guy.
No, not a ton. I mean, I've heard good things so far. It sounds like he looks the best of the rookies, which is, I guess that's not that surprising. Baker Mayfield's 5'6" or something like that, so he doesn't really have a chance.
Yeah, no, Darnold, he certainly looks the part. He also, and I heard this on the Levitard show this morning, he looks like a Lego fireman, and it's true. I found that interesting this morning. He actually does look like that, but I do think that he could start pretty effectively for them, and I'm hopeful. That's all the Jets have is hope. I'm certainly hopeful. Am I insane for being hopeful? Do they have no, Isaiah Crowell 2,000-yard rusher this year? What do you say?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really have much to do with Crowell. It has to do with the offensive line, which doesn't seem to have changed a whole lot. They got Spencer Long in there. I don't know. I don't think I think their offensive line has some continuity. It was fine last year. It wasn't a strength or a weakness. I think the Jets are kind of going to be more of the same. And I think you're right. Like, it really does hinge on whether or not Darnold's any good. And I think he certainly has a chance to be better than you would think I think he has a really good chance to be the best quarterback here. I don't know. I'm not Mayfield's stuff did not really impress me. He's slow, and if you're slow and short, that's a bad combo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Baker guy. We'll talk about him more in depth when we get to the old Brownies in a couple of days. But I'll just say this about him: he really strikes me as a guy. He in college, I mean, obviously we all saw it, can get away with a lot of stuff that I think if you do that in the NFL, it will translate horribly. So I was going to transition to Josh Allen just because I'd be lying if I didn't think of him after saying that.
Yeah, I'm just saying the Baker Mayfield, he ran a 4.8440. That's going to be tough when you've got like professional athletes chasing after you. That, it's one thing to run away from college people, but
he can throw on the run. I give him that. He is very accurate on the move, but I'm not the biggest fan for sure.
All right, so yeah, let's move that. Let's transition from Sam Darnold to the other rookie in the division, which is Josh Allen, and we got the Bills, who've done a fair amount. I mean, they brought McCarron in too. They have a lot of things have changed. I mean, Tyrod Taylor's gone. They lost. The big thing I think for the Bills that's going to be tricky for them is they lost 3/5 of their offensive line. They had Incognito and Eric Wood both retired, and then Cordy Glenn went in one of the trades. That could be a lot of trouble, especially for a rookie quarterback who can't hit the broadside of a barn. Just a bit outside. What do you think about Josh Allen, though, man?
I mean, I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. I think he's going to be great, but I would be lying if I wasn't worried about the situation, because this is how, if you look at it objectively, it just seems like the perfect storm to mess a quarterback up. You just mentioned the line. They have a brutal schedule. They have no weapons.
Zero.
Yeah. Like Kelvin Benjamin and the gang. It's just, it doesn't seem like it, you're asking a lot of him. And I've seen more Josh Allen than most people because I watch a lot of Wyoming football. That's a story for another time. He was surrounded there by pretty bad talent, and a lot of times you saw him try to do it himself, and that led to some real bad plays. Again, you do that in the NFL, I think we all know it could be bad, and I do worry about that. If they do it right and he gets a fair chance, I think he's going to be great. I am a huge Josh Allen fan. I think the talent is through the roof. Ceiling is through the roof. What do you think? I mean, you're better at this stuff than me. Not that I'm asking you about Tremaine Edwards in particular. I think their defense, though, is still going to be pretty effective as a whole.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay. A lot of it comes down to, like, they brought in some kind of home run swings, and Vontae Davis and Phillip Gaines, who are formerly really good cornerbacks. Davis has struggled. Davis has been hurt for a couple of years. It's unlikely that he returns to his previous form. That doesn't happen very often.
They lost a corner, right?
Yeah. EJ Gaines left. They traded Gaines for Gaines. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm again, a lot of this is from college. Tremaine Edwards, I think, is going to be a player. Can definitely help in the middle. And, again, if they tailor it right, maybe they can play a pretty effective brand, solid defense, lean on Shady, of course. But it's so hard if you have no line, you're going to have a serious problem.
Bad offensive line. And literally, I mean, I was saying, I think they have the worst receiving core in the NFL.
Yeah. No,
that's trouble.
It's hard to argue that at this point. Like, I would love to say no. It's bad.
It's really bad. Kelvin Benjamin is trash.
You're
like,
really
that guy, he's really, really bad. Like, he's huge. That's cool. He's a nice target, I guess. But, like, that's not a thing for someone like Josh Allen, who is all about, he rockets the ball. Like, if a guy rocketing the ball into tight coverage is not going to be that helpful, because Kelvin Benjamin cannot create any separation whatsoever because he's fat and slow. And he always has been. And that's too bad. Anyway, I don't know. Like, I'm a little more skeptical on Allen than you are.
Wow.
Obviously, I don't know him well, but what I've seen of him, he looks a lot like, he reminds me a lot of Josh Freeman, who was a very fun guy to watch. He looked amazing in the uniform, threw the ball, 150. It was pretty awesome. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. He's not the book on him is that he struggles with inaccuracy, and I'm not sure how often that gets fixed.
Yeah, and that's what everyone's saying, and I think that's legitimate. But I don't know. I'm skeptical of that stuff as a whole. You can look at metrics and say, well, no quarterback who's done this has done this. But it's always a different situation, and we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I just hope that, you know, McCarron's obviously hurt. If they throw him out there, that first stretch is brutal. Even though I'm a big Josh Allen guy, those defenses, you know, just looking ahead, are going to be pretty juicy targets for DFS. I mean, he is turnover prone, and you just mentioned the line is abysmal.
Yep. And, you know, whatever. It's just a lot of new people on the line. Like, maybe they'll be good, but it's usually not a great sign for every. You know, line continuity is more important than it is with other positions in the NFL. So,
yeah, and you've been great. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. I know last year, Andrew Whitworth in particular, you were adamant about that. And that was something early in the year. I'm not saying nobody picked up on that, but we certainly used that to our advantage.
Yeah. I was very heavy on the Rams and very short on the Bengals because Whitworth's a stud, and like people just weren't talking about how that's. I don't know. Offensive line is just very, very important. I spend a fair amount of time looking at that. We can transit. That's a great transition to the New England Patriots, my favorite team. I know it's boring to say, but there was a time I'm old enough to remember how bad they were. Like, I literally used to cheer for the Bills when I was like 6 because the Patriots were 1-15 every year, and the Bills would always lose in the Super Bowl, so they were a little more fun. But the Pats used their first-round pick on a 6'2" guy they intended to play at tackle, which we can get into how I have a hard time believing that would ever work in the future because of offensive line play.
But now
he tore his Achilles. That's a bummer. Pats do not do well in the draft in the first round very often. It's been a struggle. Say what?
Sony Michel, though, could be.
It's a running back. Who cares?
I think he's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, for DFS, it'll be fun, but it's just running back is the least. It's so weird, you know. Whatever, people know this, but running back is the least important position in the actual NFL, and the most important. You know, I mean, I guess the second most important after wide receiver at this point. But you know, it's a very important position in fantasy. So Sony Michel is going to be fun. Like, he could step right into that Dion Lewis role potentially. I mean, Burkhead's there. James White is still going to be catching a lot of passes. So there are people to compete with, but the Pats historically are kind of, you know, you pick out the script and find out which guys are going to do what. They have, like, all three of those guys are actually a little more similar now. White's the weakest runner and the best pass catcher, but they all can do both.
I was going to say, though, it is interesting because usually the Patriots, they seem to have everything. They usually have a more traditional kind of not pass catching every down back. I wonder, out of those three, who that would really lean to.
I mean, Burkhead's going to get the first chance at it because he's White.
I mean, he just, again, he strikes me more as like the in that other. He can kind of do both, but I don't know. That did kind of strike me as a whole with the Patriots, that they don't have that every down kind of workhorse guy. But I'm sure they'll be fine. They always find a way.
Did they cut Gillisley?
Maybe, yeah. The other one, I forgot about him.
Yeah, he's still there. He was like a big sort of sabermetric darling. When I remember being pretty excited that the Patriots got him just because he was awesome in Buffalo. Then he was just a disaster last year. So who knows? Again, not that big of a deal. The big, you know, offensively, Edelman is suspended for the first 4 games, and then Solder, Cooks is gone. Whatever, he was mostly a decoy anyway. A valuable one, I will say, but with the new helmet stuff, I think that under the middle stuff is going to be even more open anyway. But the big one, I think, for them is Solder, who's like he was a pretty good left tackle. And they brought in Trent Brown, which is fun. The guy's like 6'8", 380 or something like that. He's might be the biggest person in the NFL.
Yeah, that's big.
That's a little weird for me. Like, he's gone back and forth. He had a productive season last year, I believe, but had been more or less a bust before that. He's kind of seems like a bit of a high variance dude, which is not really what you want for the Patriots. So that's going to be the question, is whether or not he's any good. I think is going to be pretty important for their offense. Their offense will be fine anyway. I mean, it's the Patriots and Tom Brady's still good, but
that's the thing. It's like such a boring, because it's just a degree of at the end of the year where how do they gel? What's the injury situation? They have no real competition in this division, so it's because
they'll win the division. I don't really cheer. It's funny. Like obviously as a DFS player too, like your team affinity goes out the window a bit, but like especially with the Patriots, like I don't even watch Patriots regular season games really anymore. I just watch Red Zone, and I kind of don't care about them at all during the regular season. And then I watch all the playoff games because they're going to be in the playoffs. So
most likely, yeah,
unless Brady gets hurt, then it's probably not good. Anyway, that's enough Patriots talk. Dolphins.
Oh yeah, great. The old Dolphins. I mean, I don't know. Tannehill's back.
Mm-hmm.
It's his shot at redemption part a million. It feels like this has happened a million times with him. I don't know what to really say. They're just not a team. No Jarvis Landry. Lost. I can't imagine they're going to be even remotely interesting. Not that they're going to be a disaster either. They don't strike me as a great team that I'm excited to target for DFS. They don't strike me as a solid team in real life. Kind of a boring team in general. Do you have anything? I know that's not the best synopsis. They did take your boy Amendola, but I'm not that interested in that either.
No, he'll be good in the 7 games he plays.
Yeah, that too.
No, they brought in a lot of old, like they're bad, and they brought in a bunch of old people. Like it's not a great combo. I don't really know what the Dolphins are doing. I think they could be really bad. I wouldn't be surprised. But their big additions are like Robert Quinn, Josh Sitton, who's a good guard. That's helpful. Frank Gore, got Brock Osweiler in the QB room, and then they lost Sue, who's a good player.
Yeah, they lost Sue. They lost Pouncey, I believe.
Yeah, Pouncey went to the Chargers. Who's the best defensive player on the Dolphins now? Is it Cameron Wake?
Yeah, I mean, my options are limited because I don't know many defensive players on the Dolphins, to be honest. It's not a imposing unit. They're just, I guess kind of, you just said it. I don't know what they're doing.
That's the thing. So it's hard to. Am I here? Yes.
Yeah, we're both here.
Great. That's the thing I think with the Dolphins is it's really hard to just see what's their plan. Tannehill. I remember I heard on the Simmons podcast that Tannehill's 30. That was shocking to me.
Yeah, that is shocking. He's been around. I mean, he was a wide receiver in college, and it's just like, oh yeah, they're still letting this experiment go.
Yeah. I do not think the Dolphins are going to be very good.
Nah. It's a boring division as a whole.
It really is. Yeah. We spent some time talking about it. We will get into we probably should have tried to do 2 divisions today, honestly, since we have 6 shows to do 8. But we will not. And then the last thing was, the Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald got a massive extension.
He got paid. Well deserved. Good for him.
Yeah, he's the best. He is the best non-quarterback in the league. He's the most valuable non-quarterback in the league.
Yeah, he's an incredible player, game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is going to be fun to watch him and Sue operate next to one another, because it's very rare. There are not a lot of people in general that can get pressure up the middle. Usually, historically, your defensive tackles were more just like these massive guys, the Vince Wilfork types that were just like stopping the run more than anything else. But that's like not as big of a deal. If you can get pressure up the middle and blow up someone's pocket, like that's so valuable.
That's like the key of all keys. If you can do that, it's just most teams can't.
Right, because there's like 3 dudes in the league that can do it. It's Aaron Donald, it's Geno Atkins, the guy from the Bucks. What's his name? He can do it. Yeah. But they're all little. I mean, Sue is weird now because he's more your traditional defensive tackle, but Donald and Geno Atkins are little guys. Like they get underneath people and just like happen to be really strong and plow into them. But that's like, it's wild to watch what Aaron Donald does. And that's why he's getting paid $23 million a year.
That's a lot of potatoes. Yeah,
it is. He's gonna eat well, but yeah, exactly. Well deserved. The guy's freaking unbelievable. It's just
he's incredible. It's rare in a position like that. I've always said this, like when you can notice a guy there, you know it's special because it's like, it's a hard position to really know what they're doing and how valuable it is.
Right, and that's not to discount someone like Von Miller, but when he's lining up, that Von Miller runs a 4.40. He's like Deshaun Jackson fast, and like is lining up 5 yards away from his tackle. Like that tackle has no chance. Aaron Donald is taking a guard or a center and just moving them himself. Like that is
beast.
That's wild. Yep. Good stuff. And we will spend, I don't know, this is, it's dorky, but I think it's actually very important for DFS. I spend a lot of time talking about and studying line play. So we will talk about that ad nauseum.
And I can attest to that because that's something I'm not overly familiar with, not something I really did, but doing shows with you, obviously we talk all the time last year. I started to realize how connected that is to the plays, and there's a bunch of people. Obviously nowadays everybody is doing research, but I don't know how many people are going there just because you obviously don't have to play those guys, and you can get ahead just realizing that some of the value isn't derived from the play itself. It's obviously the supporting cast.
Yeah, and that's huge for your defense too. Like most people traditionally attack team totals, and I remember the Patriots were like big popular chalk a lot of the time last year because they'd be playing the trash teams in their own division, and obviously that team would have a low total, but that's not really what gets it done for you, especially in tournaments. Like it's all about pressure, and I was using the Chargers a lot early on because they have the best one. They had the best 1-2 pass rush outside duo. And it caused a lot of crazy stuff. And they scored a ton of points early last year versus like someone like the Patriots, who is much more conservative. They don't blitz a lot. Pressure is not really a priority for them. So that's not really going to get it done. They're 14 to 34 points scored by opposing offense is a difference of 2 points for a defense. And I looked this up last year. It's like 75 or 80% of all teams score between 14 and 34 points. So
yeah, it's like the placement points in golf, honestly. Like unless you're really at the top, it's give me the nuke upside, because if you come in 48th or you come in 22nd, you're not. It's a couple points. So yeah, I think that's worth noting. I do think with defenses, a lot of times people look at, they're only going to give up 10 points. Like that's great, but it's in a large field tournament, you're going to need something crazy because some team's going to get it. Now can you predict that? It is obviously super high variance, but there are still ways where you have some
variance. Where's the variance come into play? Pressure.
Exactly. There you go.
Yes. All right. Excellent, man. That was fun talk. We talked about a lot. College football, real football, golf.
A lot of football. It's football time of year. I know you're a Rhino Suns kind of guy, but what can I say? It's a football kind of year, and the Saturday slate, stop in and Slack. I'll be talking about it. I have to make my own team, so it helps me as much as it helps you. Let me know what you're thinking. It's a lot of teams to break down, so we'll be doing it though.
We absolutely will. All right, man. Good talking to you. Jason Day stinks. Justin Thomas stinks. John Rahm stinks. They'll probably be fine. Thanks, Josh, for producing. This is the From A to B show presented by awesomemo.com. You should consider signing up for us because we have all kinds of cool stuff behind the paywall that is going to help you play DFS better. And thank you very much. We will talk to you on, I'm not sure about Monday with the holiday. Monday or Tuesday. Take care.